I work as a cashier at a small, 24-hour convenience store on the outskirts of town. It's not the busiest place, mostly late-night customers grabbing snacks or gas station essentials, but it's steady enough to keep me employed. The store itself is one of those places that's quiet at night, a little run down, and with the flickering lights, it often feels like a scene from a horror movie. But it was just my regular shift until one night when everything changed. It was about 2 a.m. when the first incident happened. I was manning the register, eyes a little heavy from the long shift, when the door chime rang. A man walked in, tall, wearing a dark hoodie with the hood pulled low, hiding most of his face. I didn't think much of it. It was the middle of the night, and people didn't always look too friendly. He walked straight to the back of the store, where the aisles of snacks and drinks were. I thought he was just browsing, like usual, but then he started moving quickly, too quickly. His footsteps were heavier, more urgent, and I could hear him knocking things over in the aisle. I froze for a second, thinking maybe he had dropped something, but the noise didn't stop. It sounded like he was moving from aisle to aisle, knocking cans, bottles, boxes, just making a mess. I tried to brush it off and focus on the customer in line, but then I heard the back door open, something that didn't happen often at all. The man was still in the store, but now someone else was entering through the back, and they were quiet, too quiet. I glanced over my shoulder toward the aisle. The man was still there, but now there was someone else creeping up behind him. They were moving like they didn't want to be noticed, almost as if they were trying to sneak up on him. My blood ran cold. The man at the back didn't seem to notice the other person, but I did. I watched as the person behind him pulled something out from under their jacket, a long knife. I was stuck. I couldn't scream. I couldn't run. My hands were locked on the register, but my mind was screaming at me to do something. And then it happened. The man with the knife lunged forward, slashing the other man's back with a brutal force. There was a sickening sound of the blade slicing through clothing and flesh. The man in the hoodie cried out, but it wasn't loud enough to be heard outside the store. The attacker quickly moved in, pressing the blade against his throat. The man didn't stand a chance. In a matter of seconds, it was over. The store was silent again. I couldn't believe what I had just witnessed. I had to do something. But I didn't. I was paralyzed, caught between fear and disbelief. The killer wasn't finished. He turned, walking slowly toward the front of the store, wiping the blade on his sleeve. His eyes locked with mine for a split second, just long enough for me to see the coldness in them. He wasn't concerned. He wasn't angry. He was calm, almost methodical. I thought he would come for me next, but instead, he just nodded, as if acknowledging my presence, then slipped out the door without saying a word. The door chimed again, and he was gone. Just like that. I didn't know how long I stood there, staring at the blood that was starting to pool on the floor. It felt like hours. But I knew I had to do something, so I reached for my phone and dialed 911. The police arrived shortly after, but by then the killer was long gone. They found the man's body in the back, but there were no clues, no fingerprints, no sign of who did it. Just the knife. The worst part? They told me that the man who had been murdered, his face was on the news just a few days later. He was a local, known in the area. And apparently he wasn't supposed to be there. He wasn't even a customer. I don't know why I didn't tell the police about the second person, the one with the knife. I couldn't explain why I froze up. Maybe I was in shock. Or maybe, deep down, I didn't want to get involved. But now I can't stop thinking about it. What if he comes back? What if he's still watching me? I can tell you this. After that night, I never feel safe working late anymore. Every time the door chimes, I brace myself. Every shadow that moves in the corner of my eye makes my heart race. I wonder, with each passing night, if the killer is still out there, or if, somehow, he's already found his next target And one thing I know for sure, he knows exactly who I am.